'Tis the season to be podcasting. Stay inside with a warm beverage and a hot microphone. If you're interested, Spotify can help you out. They've got a platform that lets you make one, distribute it, and earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So you've already got the equipment necessary to start recording today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple, Google, and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are an excellent way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's completely free. I switched Dorky, Geeky, Nerdy over to Spotify for Podcasters, and I haven't regretted it. The analytics are fantastic, and the new tools for hosting and updating the feed are way more than I could do self-hosting. Now, it's your turn. Head to podcasters.spotify.com and read all about it. Then, let me know what you're podcasting all about. Are you ready for some trivia, bub? With the new movie Dark Phoenix hitting theaters this weekend, it seemed a perfect time to have an episode dedicated to everyone's favorite mutants, the X-Men. Hey there, I'm your host, Brian Rollins, and this is the Dorky, Geeky, Nerdy Trivia Podcast. Every episode, we bring you a fresh batch of 30 trivia questions. We break it down into 3 rounds of 10 questions each. If you're looking for the rules, you can find some at dorkygeekynerdy.com/rules. You're also welcome to make some up on your own. We're not super picky. I'd like to take a moment and do a shout out to the podcast Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men. Their show served as a resource for several of the questions we have here. You can find them at explainthexmen.com. There's no E at the beginning. I'll have a link as well on the show notes for this episode on dorkygeekynerdy.com. Sharpen your claws, polish your goggles, and cinch up your spandex. The world needs saving, and questions need answering. The Dorky Round. Number 1. What is Professor X's real name? Charles Xavier. Middle name, Francis. Number 2. Adjectiveless X-Men number 1, created by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, set which record in 1990, which it still holds to this day? At over 8 million copies in print, it's the highest-selling single issue of any comic in the history of the industry. Number 3. Lynn Wein and Dave Cockrum relaunched the franchise with which issue? Giant Size X-Men number 1. Number 4. Which arch-nemesis / anti-hero survived the Nazi concentration camps? Magneto. Number 5. What is Beast's real name? Dr. Henry Philip Hank McCoy. Number 6. Nightcrawler leaves a scent of what behind when he teleports? Burning brimstone. Number 7. Hailing from Russia, what mutant can transform himself into organic steel? Colossus. Number 8. What mutant gets married to T'Challa in 2006? Storm. Number 9. What organization led by Sebastian Shaw often faces off against the X-Men? The Hellfire Club. Number 10. Which New Mutants and X-Force adversary was conceived as a mostly silent parallel to DC's Deathstroke? Deadpool. The Geeky Round. Number 1. Who were the two primary creators of the Dark Phoenix saga? Chris Claremont, the writer, and John Byrne, pencils. Number 2. Who were the founding members of the X-Men when the comic was first published? Cyclops, Beast, Angel, Iceman, Marvel Girl, and Professor X. Marvel Girl joined during that first issue. Number 3. In what year was the first X-Men comic published? (1963). X-Men number 1 was cover dated September 1963 and hit stores on or about July 2nd, 1963. Number 4. Which legendary Batman artist was assigned to the X-Men after requesting a job on Marvel's worst-selling title? Neil Adams. Number 5. Which 1995 event saw all of the current X titles replaced with new titles for several months, set in an alternate timeline? Age of Apocalypse. Number 6. Moira McTaggart's lab is located on what island? Muir Island. Number 7. What are the lenses of Cyclops' visor made of? Ruby quartz crystal. Number 8. Which Daredevil villain was intended to fill the role Apocalypse filled early in the X Factor run? The Owl, Leland Owlsley. Number 9. Which superfan figured out how to bring Jean Grey back from the dead and later wrote for both Marvel and DC? Kurt Busiek. Number 10. Professor X dated the magistrates of which alien race? The Shi'ar. The Nerdy Round. Number 1. In the E is for Extinction story, what country was destroyed? Genosha. Number 2. Mutants were known as what during the Marvel 1602 storyline? They were called Witch Breed. Number 3. Mortimer Toynbee is better known as what in the X-Men comics? Toad. Number 4. Which X-Man's real name was Slim for 3 issues before revealing his birth name? Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. Number 5. How did Xavier lose the use of his legs in the comic book canon? He was crushed in a fight against an alien named Lucifer. Number 6. Which villain deliberately named himself after the greatest evil mankind has ever conceived? Sauron, aka Karl Lykos. Number 7. Before Jim Shooter got involved and demanded the return of Jean Grey, who would have been the token female member of X Factor? Dazzler, the disco mutant. Number 8. What was the title of the X-Men Star Trek The Next Generation crossover novel? Planet X. Number 9. In the unaired Kitty Pryde of the X-Men animated pilot, what nationality was Wolverine? The dialogue said he was Canadian, but he spoke with a thick Australian accent. Number 10. What does Wolverine canon consider his home province, even though the province didn't exist until decades after he left the area? Alberta. Did you make it through the danger room with your whole team intact? That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for joining us. Like I said earlier, we do this every week. Here's a clue for next week's episode. There are 2 books that have sold over 1 billion copies. One is the Bible. What's the other one? You can find us on dorkygeekynerdy.com. From there, you can find our book of the week for this episode, The Dark Phoenix Saga. You can also find links to follow us on social media or just drop us a line. See you next time. I'm your host, Brian Rollins. You can find me and my other projects at thevoicesinmyhead.com. As always, thanks for listening.